show. This one should be pretty interesting. I'm Jim Beebe. We got Lucas Loring. We're back in the library today, and we have Evie, not Evie, Evie Kevish. All right. She's in her ghetto home office. She's so street with the graffiti in the background. I want to get right into that. Evie, where are you at now? So that's your graffiti background in your house. Is that right?
Yes, it is. My home office, I have a mural tagged up here and it says inspire, motivate, educate on my walls. So that's what I'm all about.
Awesome. And then same deal in your garage, right? You got a badass garage gym. You're kind of a gym rat, right?
Yes, I have. It's called the Rican Hot Box because I'm Puerto Rican. And, the box thing from CrossFit kind of stuck. And yeah, I have it
Gotcha.
tagged up in there too.
Yeah, I was going to introduce you as this recovering CrossFitter, but it sounds like you still do a bit of that, which is good because it's really great for being well-rounded and healthy to begin with. But from there, she seems to have added powerlifting. Well before that, she added two kids. But now, you roll all that together. The reason we're having her on the show completely different for people that we've had on before. But she's this juicer, and I thought juice. When I met her at a powerlifting meet at Unbreakable, I'm like, juicer, that lime you just put in your whiskey and your Coke? I don't get that. So she started telling me more about that, and I was like, huh, no shit. Okay, I could probably learn a few things here. Let's get someone else on the show that knows something completely different than what we know. Let's see how we can get better. So we got Evie on today, best hair on the internet, and she talked to us all about juicing, right? So, but before that, Evie, just share briefly your little roadmap, your little journey from, you said, having kids, wanting to be healthier to where you are today.
Okay. Yes. So first I want to say, Jim and Lucas, thank you so much for having me on today. Truly appreciate it. And yes, my office is a little ghetto, which I love it like that, right? But so let me just kind of tell you guys a little bit of my story, right? So I've always worked out and been athletic and things like that, and had a pretty good physique most of my life. And then I had two kids in 2 years. So because of that, it was literally like back to back. I had two kids under 2 years old, and I am more of a natural, holistic, crunchy mama, if you will. So I had gained weight with my pregnancy, and then obviously getting pregnant again, that was a struggle. And I wasn't even actually thinking about trying to lose weight during that time because I was nursing and then having two kids like that. I was tandem nursing, which that means breastfeeding them at the same time. So in order for me to produce that much milk, I had to eat a large amount of calories. So my weight really was high, to be honest. And I'm never one of those girls that focuses on how much I weigh or what size clothes I wear. I just want to be healthy and fit and look good and feel good. So, as I was, ending my nursing journey, I was trying to figure out ways to kind of like get more energy, get my skin looking better. Because from nursing my girls, they were taking all my nutrients. So I had like really dry, dull skin. My hair was really like thinnish and kind of brittle. So I was like, what can I do to like help me get energy and like make me feel like more coming to life? Because I don't take or put anything into my body that I know is toxic or chemicals and things like that. And I didn't want to pass that on to my daughters through my milk. So that got me into fruits. So I started looking into fruit a little bit. And then I started doing smoothies for a couple years. So I did that, and that got me into juicing. So I kind of started my social media account, like showing my workouts and juicing to like keep myself accountable. But then more and more people kept asking me about it. And I was like, gosh, I wonder if there's a school for this because I would actually like to learn as well. So I was previously in corporate America as a project manager at a media agency, and I have a bachelor's degree in marketing. So I have a really good background with, marketing, advertising, media, things like that. And I was like, how can I learn about juicing and help people with that? So I found the Juice Guru Institute, and this is an accredited certification from the Complementary Medical Association. And I did the mastery program there, and then I received my certification, and I started my business in 2020. So it was quite the time to start the business because I feel, especially during the pandemic, a lot of people were looking for more natural, holistic solutions. They didn't want to be pressured into doing things or taking things that they didn't want to. So looking for natural immunity boosters and things like that. So that's what happened. And I started my business, and here I am 4 years later.
Dang. So right in that pandemic, COVID, they're sending money out and all to help businesses, and they're trying to stimulate the economy, but they're still not. People aren't working, and people are getting laid off even. And now you're going to pivot from a corporate job, something similar to what I did, but not during the pandemic. I did that in 2012 and 13, coming out of JP Morgan. But you're going from marketing in the corporate world to marketing yourself in a brand new small business, literally, in your garage where you're working out. Is that when you started doing CrossFit as well? You started doing CrossFit before then, or when did that piece of the puzzle fall into place?
So CrossFit is actually what opened me up to a whole new realm. So I started CrossFit when I was 33. I'm 45 now, and I did CrossFit for 10 years. And then I started powerlifting. It'll be 2 years this October. So CrossFit, I mean, I can't accredit enough. Like, I went to the games. Like, I was so diehard when I was into it. I did CrossFit both of my pregnancies, and really what it taught me so much, because I remember going to that first meeting about the paleo diet and, like, what they teach. And I did do that for several years. And I noticed a change in my physique, my strength, and things like that. And it was really great. Like, I felt really good. And that is honestly like what just completely opened my eyes and, like, started getting me out of the matrix, if you will, because I started really, like, researching, like, what is in our food, what are we eating, and then after that it was like, oh wow. And ever since then I've been completely, like, on the other side of the coin. So very particular about what I eat, things I consume, stuff I put on my body, all of that. So yeah, 10
You,
years.
what's cool is that if you look at, there's that CrossFit pyramid, but there's also, if you look at the bodybuilding world, even the strongman world, any kind of athlete, your mindset kind of pushes you forward, guides you. But then that overall base is your nutrition. People say you can't outwork a bad diet, and whether you ask a bodybuilder, personal trainer, or whomever, they'll say anywhere from 2/3 of your success is your diet, maybe as high as 80%, depending. Then from there, you want a general physical preparedness is that next base of the pyramid to be just, well-rounded and in shape. And then from there comes gymnastics, so you're moving correctly, and then strength. So you cover those bottom sections of the pyramid, you're like 85% of the way. Last is power and speed. And at 45, we don't need a ton of that. Then there's, skill, and then your sport. Well, we're not really competing in anything that dynamic either. So that piece isn't that big of a deal. And if for you and for me, our sport is being well-rounded and healthy and living a long time so we can be impactful in the world. So you have those pieces locked down now. That's almost all the pyramid that we're talking about, being a well-rounded, healthy person. So at its core, the basics of juicing. Just give us a Reader's Digest version. What does that all entail?
Sure. So, a lot of people don't realize that juicing really is a potent medicine, because think about it. Real medicine comes from the earth and not a lab, right? So juice is made from fruits and vegetables, and these are juiced through a cold pressed juicer is the best kind of juicer to use. And what it does is it separates the fiber from the produce, right? And then people will be like, you're removing the fiber. Well, guys, that's the entire point of juicing, is to remove the fiber. And the reason for this is because your body does not have to go through the digestion process, meaning when you consume juice, especially it's best on an empty stomach, it's quickly and easily digested because it's absorbed into the bloodstream within about 15 minutes of consumption. So, as a certified juice therapist, depending on what my clients' needs are, I'll put them on certain type of protocols. So, if it's someone's like juicing for acne, I'm going to have them on a lot of green juices with a lot of minerals, and then like carrot juice, for example, because this is great to help the skin. If I have someone that's dealing with inflammation, we're definitely going to be doing a lot of ginger, lemon, maybe some more of these citrus fruits to try to break up some of that stagnant mucus in the body to reduce the inflammation. So juicing, I feel like sometimes people give it they think like, oh, it's just sugar juice or whatever. And I'll tell people, like, you can use juicing as a medicinal modality to heal your body, but you have to create the right conditions for your body to heal. So, yes, there are fruit juices and they do contain sugars, but this is not processed or added sugars. These are natural sugars. In addition to that, you need to make sure you're incorporating the green juices as well to get the minerals in as well. So, the fruit juices are really the cleansers of the body, and the green juices are the rebuilders of the tissues within the body. So, juice is amazing. Like I said, it can be used for anything and everything. There's no bad effects with it, there's no side effects. And I know plenty of people that have actually healed holistically through juicing. So it's an amazing modality. I feel like a lot of people are just not educated about, and they're not sure, like what to juice or what to, pair with what. But honestly, it's such a great way to heal the body. And then same thing, like if you have a special needs child or a child that's very, picky with their diet, they won't eat their fruits or veggies, you can juice them and then they can get the nutrients that way. So there's so many different ways you can do juicing and, making clean juices. That's what I try to teach people. It's like you don't want to buy juices from the store. These are HPP juices, high pressure processing, which means, there's room for bacteria to get in there. They have longer shelf life, like fresh is best. So if you can do that and learn how to, incorporate juicing, whether it's, an 8-ounce juice a day or a shot or something, but to get in those vitamins and minerals. Do you think, a small shot of juice, like 2 ounces or even an 8-ounce juice, that has more vitamins, nutrients, and minerals than you would get, like just, if eating fruits and vegetables for the week, like just that one small juice like that. So the nutrient density is incredible with juicing.
Dang. All right. Early on, you said something about taking out the fiber. Fiber is still an important component, right? So we still need that. So we kind of need to have some regular fruits and vegetables, not juiced, correct?
Yeah,
So we had the fiber piece
absolutely.
as well, right?
Yeah. So I would recommend for that, yes, definitely having a mixture of both. Or if you're not going to have that, then incorporate something later in the day, like a smoothie or having some type of, fiber within your meal to help balance that out. But yes, absolutely, you need the fiber. It's crucial.
Gotcha.
So I'm sure you get this question, this usual, probably a pretty common follow-up question is, but like, how do you go about when it comes to getting your protein in? Is it just regular meats, or do you have certain things that you go for that?
Yes, great question. And I do get that often. So I will tell you guys, from going from paleo, I actually became plant-based. So what happened was once I got pregnant, I could not eat meat anymore. Um, just the smell, the texture, the taste. I mean, I could not eat it. Then I thought after, I had my kids, I would be able to eat meat again. I couldn't do it. So then I was like, okay, well, maybe when I'm done nursing and stuff, I'll be able to eat meat. I could not do it. It was just, I don't know, something in me. It was just so like shut off and repulsed by it. So I think it was in 2019, I did a full year of like not taking any protein or any supplements or anything like that just to see how my body would react. And I actually did make gains on my lifts, which I was shocked. Um, but it showed me, definitely there was, potential there. But now I am a whole food plant-based vegan. So I get a lot of my proteins, like I eat a ton of tofu, seitan, fava beans, soy curls, that kind of stuff. So that is like my main source of protein is whole plant-based foods. In addition to that, I'll mix in certain carbohydrates and fats to like help balance my things out, but I'm not super fixated on it. But I will tell you, as a woman my age, going through perimenopause, that I really have to have more of a higher protein diet at this time in my life right now because it's essential. So like maybe 5 years ago or 3 years ago, it wasn't as bad. Like I could kind of, whatever. But now it's been very strict, like where I've been on a high protein vegan diet. And it's been great. Like I feel really good. I have tons of energy and I get all my stuff from fruit juice and plants. What do you think about that?
It's hard for me to get my head around because, you know, if I got someone who's trying to maintain their strength and is using me, say I weigh 250 pounds, right? An easy rule of thumb is 1 gram of protein per pound, right? Or if I'm lean mass of 200, at least 1 gram of protein per the lean mass, so 200 grams. And if I want to continue to grow and push, it's probably 1.2 or 1.3 times. If you want to keep losing weight, maybe it's 0.8. So then if I'm sitting there looking at tofu and beans, trying to get 250 grams, I'm like, motherfucker, right? That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, I
And you're
would not
telling me,
recommend beans for protein, though. That's not going to do it. That's going to make you blow up and be gassy for sure. So,
yeah, right.
yeah.
I'll have no friends. Nobody will squat with me ever again, right? Can't go anywhere. Can't ride in a car with anybody. And then you're probably saying no processed protein, so no whey protein isolate, So
yeah,
from a functionality standpoint, there's always positives and negatives to all these decisions. So overall, feeling better. But I'm like, how do you get the quantity in for someone like that? So that's the question I'm posing.
Oh, that's a great question. And a couple weeks ago, I was actually on a vegan bodybuilding podcast, and we were kind of talking about that because I'm not like you, like the bodybuilders, where they're, every single thing is weighed, the macros, all. I'm like, no, like I like to eat. I'm going to eat what I'm going to eat. I respect what they do, whatever. But I get what you're saying. And the guy that was interviewing me as the podcast host, he got down to 217 for a show, and now he's back up to 241. So I don't know his exact meal plan or how he does it, but his physique is amazing. And I know actually quite a few vegan bodybuilders, and I get it. Like from the male standpoint, it's definitely different because they think about how am I going to get the protein, and then the comments, the guys saying like soy tits and all this stuff, and it's like, But I mean, I've seen these people, so I just feel like at the end of the day, you have to find what works for you and only you and your body type, and that's why I respect that. Like when people come to me, like if they come in my program, I'm going to take you through a whole cleanse or whatever, and we omit the animal products while we're doing this because a lot of animal proteins are highly inflammatory in the body, and then you think about it, the underlying cause of every disease is mucus, mucus, bronchitis in the lungs, endometriosis, mucus in that area, prostate, mucus down there. So what causes mucus? Well, mucus forming foods. So when people eat a lot of meat, our digestion system, it takes a lot of mucus to process that. Then if your lymphatic system is not working properly, what happens is it gets backed up with mucus and acids. So the lymphatic system is basically the sewer system of the body. This is where all the mucus, acids, and toxins go to be released from our body. But if it's backed up, you're going to know because you're going to have pain, you're going to have inflammation, you'll have cysts, lumps, bumps, boils, acne, all that kind of stuff is clear indication that the lymphatic system is backed up. In addition to that, if you're not pooping on the regular, it's a huge problem. So what I have found is, when men have come to me that are on super high protein diets, end up having a lot of kidney issues later as they age, also issues with erectile dysfunction. So at some point, it's like you have to balance things out, and it's like, I know we all want to be going for the gains and getting stronger and stuff, but it's like, it comes to a point where it's like, okay, are you really doing this like for, a vain reason? Or are you doing it for health reasons, So that's like with me, even though I'm 45, like, yeah, I still want to have a nice butt and, good body and everything like that. But I also want to be healthy. And that's why I switched to SBD because I've read like Squat University and some of these other good doctors talk about like as you age, those are like the main things. If you can't squat and deadlift, then you can't really do much as you age. Like that mobility factor is so important. So with that being said, going back to what you said, I feel that you need to be like your best advocate. Like, how you feel. Like, for example, like you just said, if you ate a bunch of beans, you would feel like shit because your body's not used to that. And like, but if you feel good eating steaks and your body can handle that and you're good, then don't change it. You know what I mean? Do what you need to do to help your body. And same thing, then there's people that are on the carnivore diet. One of my male clients, he's younger, he's in his 20s. He was on a carnivore diet and it completely messed him up, really, really bad. And now he's on the other side of the coin. We're trying to heal, working on his gut. He has a lot of issues with the colon and things like that. So that's why I tell people, you really have to be in tune with your body, and you have to find what works for you and only you. And, people always talk shit to me or saying stuff like, oh, you're juicing vegan and how do you lift weights and stuff? And I'm like, well, I must be doing something right because I'm continually making gains as I age and I'm getting stronger in my lifts. So it feels good. And honestly, I feel great. Like I have so much energy, no bloating. My physique is great. I'm still getting stronger. Of course, I wish I definitely had more upper body strength. But, I'm like, I'll take it. I'm getting there. So, yeah.
You make a couple interesting points I really like. One, the main one is sometimes I'll tell people, hey, you've been trained so long, you should take a deload. And they're like, I don't need to do that. I know my body. Or someone else who's a bodybuilder was saying, hey, I'll just pose some questions. They're like, yeah, well, I know my body. I'm like, I understand that everybody does know their body better than anyone else. My only pushback or suggestion is try some things out and then simply see. Maybe I'm completely right for you. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm full of shit, right? But why don't you just try a 6-week cycle or 8 or 12-week cycle and then find out, or even a 1-week cycle on a deload, right?
Yeah.
So you find something that works for you and then you tweak it. And then you still need to reevaluate because what worked for you when you're in your 20s versus 45 might not be the same. There's plenty of people like my wife who had got real gluten issues or dairy issues now that she didn't have 10, 15 years ago. And if you're in college like me at Purdue in the mid-90s, there's plenty of Taco Bell and beer, right? And so doing that now is a whole different animal. So you got to see what works for you at the time and then reevaluate later. And I can attest, if I can remember, I think you're like a 100-kilo squatter, 220 pounds roughly. So that's not chump change. It's more than 1.5 times body weight. So that, nothing wrong with that either. But I gotta imagine like people kind of come at you, like those trolls and things like that. And they're gotta be like, oh man, that's a lot of bullshit. That's a lot of woo woo, right? What does she know? Right?
Yep.
But then you just say, what's your response? Is it just, hey, motherfucker, I'm doing my own thing? Or you just ignore all that? How do you handle that from a business standpoint or just when you have like a little bit of tax here and there?
Yeah, so honestly, I mean, it doesn't really faze me. If people talk, crap or say things, or whatever, I'm open to it. I just let them come to me. And then, that's why I'm like, well, I must be doing something right because I've had a lot of haters. I've made national headlines before and I just accept it. It's like, look, people can say whatever they want, and they can mock or make fun or whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm out here living my best life. Like I'm out here, I have these are what I tell my girls. I'm like, these are 3 things no one can ever take away from you: your strength, your education, and your confidence. Those 3 things is like, that's my thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can talk shit and say whatever you want, but it's like at the end of the day, I can pick up both of my girls and walk around. Can you do that? Even if it's like a man, like older man or maybe out of shape or something like that. And it's like, when I go to my kids' sporting events, like they're proud of me, like, oh, look at my mom. My mom's jacked, like they tell their teachers and friends that and stuff, and that makes me feel good because it's like, I'm not some, couch potato mom or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me at all, honestly. I'm like, if they want to hate on it, but then it's funny because sometimes the ones that do end up hating on you, they come full circle and come back like, you know what? I need help. Like I'm dealing, I have a lot of gut issues, or hey, you know what? I'm starting to get acne really bad. Like, I don't want to do creams and pills. Like, can you help me? Whatever. Oh, you want to try? I got you. Come on over, Then they try it out and they're like, dang, I should have listened to her from the get-go. But you never know until you try it. And that's why I think like our society is over medicated and undereducated. People just don't know.
That's that old adage that they ignore you, then they mock you, then they ask you how you did it, right?
Exactly.
Once they start seeing the results. I like that approach. I have to give this speech tomorrow at the Chamber of Commerce, and it's on limiting beliefs. And these business owners, same as me, will come in there with imposter syndrome or a lot of fears, and they're all preconceived, right? And they're not real, right? And it's so freeing, like you said, to just let all that go. Because one of my points tomorrow is, let's say someone's coming at you and saying, "Hey, you're full of shit," or "You didn't do that well," or "Your business could be better," or "You kind of failed." Like, you're still going to leave that meeting. You're still going to go home, right? You're still going to go to work. And it's you and your family. It's you, your family, and your God. That's all you probably care about. So whatever anyone else says, show me where it matters. Whether they're right or wrong, just show me where it matters. It doesn't, because you're still on your own path. You still have your own, agenda and goals. You still have to put the next foot in front of the other. So when those people are coming at you, or there's these obstacles, your only choice is to continue moving, right? So it doesn't really matter. And I like how you said that. Well, who cares, right? Who cares? Because it doesn't matter. You're living your best life, and you're only here once. When you said that the juice gets absorbed quickly, how quickly and how does it exactly run through you?
So yes, so great question. So as you consume it, it's a liquid, obviously. So it gets absorbed into the blood immediately, like upon consumption, and it takes like full 15 minutes to get through there. Now, if you have food, it's going to take longer, probably like maybe 30 minutes to an hour. So that's why I always recommend juice is best on an empty stomach. That is the best way to do it. And another thing to be conscientious of is that sometimes people want to use juice as a meal replacement, and I don't necessarily recommend that unless you're doing a certain protocol, or if you're on a cleanse or something like that, then it's different. But something to be mindful of too is that, let's say you had a big breakfast and like a medium-sized lunch, and you're like, well, I'm just going to have juice for dinner. I would recommend to not do that, because then everything you've already consumed, you're putting the juice on top of that. That can cause bloating and imbalance in the gut flora, and you don't want that. You know what I mean? Because you could get almost like bloated and like feel just like maybe gassy even too. So that's why I say empty stomach is best, but if not, just be mindful of it. So if you're eating something, make sure it's lighter. Or if you're concerned about blood sugar levels, you can certainly pair it with like a protein and fat as well if you're having a fruit juice.
It spike your insulin, right? How's that impact things like that?
Depending on what you're drinking, for sure, it can. And then obviously you'd want to watch the amount of that you're drinking. So, if I'm doing a cleanse, I'm drinking like 5 to 6 32-ounce juices a day. And I do that once a quarter. So I do a juice cleanse every quarter as the seasons change. This is a natural way to boost your immunity. And you don't eat any food during that time. So during that time, it's just the juice flooding your body with all the nutrients, all the vitamins, all the minerals. And as you do this, you go through what I call kind of like a health crisis. You're going to feel kind of worse before you feel better. And it sucks because you might be farting and pooping and breaking out and tired and brain fog, which sucks, but that's good because that's the juice pulling and ridding all the toxins out of your body. That's why it's so essential to have a clean colon, because you need to make sure that you're eliminating properly. Because if you're not, then those toxins get absorbed into the bloodstream, and then that can make you sick. So that's why I always preach about the importance of a clean colon.
How long does that cleanse take? How many days?
So for beginners, I recommend 1 to 3 days, intermediate 3 to 5, and advanced 5 to 7. Now, I always tell people you should never go into a cleanse thinking, I'm going to do this many days. Like, just take it day by day and see how you feel, because it is a very big deal. Like, a juice cleanse is one of the highest levels of detoxification. So that's why, like, kind of like you said, the pyramid, when people come into my program, we start down here. I'm looking at the food log, the journal, what you're eating. So if someone is having issues, say they're having inflammation, well, then I'm noticing these highly inflammatory foods in the diet. Let's start omitting these foods out of the diet. Then we move up to the next level. And then we do like a 10-day kind of detox where it's like green smoothies and foods to prep the body. And then we go on a juicing protocol. And I don't actually have them do a juice cleanse until the end, which is 6 months, because that way your body is fully clear. So when you do a juice cleanse, you need to make sure all the elimination pathways are open within the body, which is the lymphatic system. That means you should be sweating regularly, urinating regularly, eliminating regularly, and then making sure that, like I said, you're able to detox properly. If you're not, then those things need to be fixed prior to you going on to the next step. Because again, yes, you can drink juices and do all of it, but if you want to do it the right way with the results you're looking for, you need to make sure that you're doing it the proper way and on the right protocol for your body and what you're dealing with.
Is it pretty set in your process that you're gradually evolving your athletes or your clients towards a non-meat, non-dairy, like a vegan type diet, and then juicing is a supplement to that? But do you ever work with people where they're saying, hey, I'm still going to eat my meat. I'm still going to get that in. I just want to add either some greens or add some fruit juices for whatever reasons. People will do hybrids, or is it just all one or all the other? How's that go?
Yeah, so definitely. So definitely the hybrid for sure. So I've had some clients that will, be kind of like plant-based for a month, maybe 2 months, or they'll eat, like octo vegetarian or pescatarian, vegetarian, like, do you guys know what the different levels of that is? So like a vegetarian, they eat, everything except meat, but they'll still eat like cheese, dairy, eggs, that kind of stuff. Then a pescatarian is someone that eats fish mostly and like vegetables and not really a lot of meat. Then there's vegan, and then you have like alkaline vegan, which is like, really an extreme form of veganism. And I always tell people like, no, like you need to do like what you do. But while we're healing, we're going to be cleansing and doing all that. So if there's a certain time frame where we have to omit certain foods, that's fine. But then when we're done, if you want to incorporate that back in, yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Breads and pasta and grains?
If you want, we know this causes inflammation, obviously, but yes, I have. And then too, it's like someone like me, I'm Puerto Rican, so it's like I grew up on rice and beans, man. It's like that's still a staple in the household. But when I was paleo, I mean, yeah, I went without rice for like a year. It was rough.
No cerveza either?
I mean, you can, but honestly, you have to think like, and I'm not against drinking, but I'll be honest with you, this September will be, I think, 5 or 6 years that I have not had any alcohol, which I'm really proud of myself. But like I tell my clients, when you're trying to cleanse your body and all that, you don't want to put alcohol because it's a toxin, right? And then on top of that, it's acidic. So it's going to throw you off because we need to get you in a more alkaline state. So what happens is, the pH scale is like 0 to 7 is acidic, 7 to 14 is alkaline. You don't want to be too alkaline. You also don't want to be too acidic. You want to be somewhere in the middle. So you can balance it out with other foods or whatever. And I'm not saying you can't enjoy it, but it's like I had a woman come to me a couple years ago, and she was going on a vacation to Mexico or something. She wanted to lose weight really fast. And she was like, can I do your program? And of course, I would love to take a new client, but I asked her, I'm like, are you going to be drinking alcohol? And she was like, yeah, I mean, it's vacation. Who wouldn't be living it up, eating, drinking, whatever, right? But I told her, I'm like, I can't take you, because I'm like, there is no way I can get your body cleansed to this point, and then you just put all that in your body. It's so toxic. Like, it's actually going to cause more damage than not. So I was like, no, but yeah, sure. Like after you do your, whether it's a smaller program that I have or a longer one, yeah, you can add that stuff back in. It's fine. But I'll tell you, most of the time people notice such a difference and change and they feel so good. They don't even want it. They're like, oh, I want mocktails or something, But yeah, I mean, it's fine. I feel like, if you want to have that, it's totally fine. It's not a big deal. Obviously, just be, thoughtful of the consumption part of it. You don't want to be, going on a bender or something like that. But yeah, an occasional drink or whatever, it's fine.
An occasional, right, Lucas?
Here you guys are cracking one or got one right now, I bet.
That'd be fun if I
only
pulled
ever
out.
drink occasionally.
Me too. With everything, whether it's good for you or not, there's still going to be some kind of costs, right? Going to college gets you smarter, but there's still a cost. There's a time cost, right?
Yeah.
And even having a great conversation and connecting with your family, there's a cost because your cost of productivity, right? There's positives and negatives. And there's got to be some kind of different cost. Maybe you're not buying as much meats and grains, but you're buying more whole foods, more organic foods. There's the cost of juicing. There's the time cost, right? Talk about some of those components as well, so you know actually what kind of car you're really buying.
Yeah. So with that, obviously, like I tell people, listen, you're paying for your health one way or another. You pay the
Mm-hmm.
farmer or you pay the pharmacist, all right? So either you spend the money and you buy organic and do the best you can with the choices you have, all right? Like I have a client in Delaware. She lives like in the middle of nowhere. And it's really hard for her to get access to fresh fruits and vegetables, especially during the winter. So I told her, just do the best you can with the choices you have. Now, when it comes to organic produce, obviously organic is best. But again, you just do the best you can with the choices you have. Now, thinking about that, you have to think about, well, what is more expensive? A $400 grocery bill at the store every week, or a $90,000, um, you know, X-ray and some type of procedure for your heart or something like that because you're having heart issues. So it's like that's what I try to like think about it as, because it's like we're all paying for our health one way or another. And I want to live an empowered, liberated, free lifestyle where I'm not dependent on a medication or a cane or a walker. Like I feel like it's so important to put the right things in your body. And sometimes, again, it's like people don't realize or think, like, you know what, this is probably really not good for me. Like, actually, just last night I was on TikTok and I saw a registered dietitian talking about, eating a rotisserie chicken from Costco in her car in between her kids' sports. Now I get it. That's better than having like Burger King or McDonald's or something like that. But then I also think like, well, do you not know that like a rotisserie chicken sitting in that hot plastic container and all those microplastics and everything, those chemicals going in the chicken, then you eat that. Then those microplastics get in your body. And then what happens? Hormone, endocrine disruptors. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's just, I don't know, like, and I'm not saying I'm perfect or my way is right or anything like that, but I'm just like, and again, it's better than some crappy food or whatever, but I'm just like, stuff like that. So it's like, I feel like you have to really understand and educate yourself, because at the end of the day, it's like, what's right and what's not. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can buy the good foods, and I'm sure you guys know and preach this too. It's like you shop the perimeter of the store, all the stuff in the middle, it's all garbage. Everything that comes from the box, pretty much cancer and all that, anyways. So I tell people, it's like you need to eat from the earth, drink things that come from the earth, not stuff that's in a box and there's 10,000 ingredients and all that. Like, a simple whole food, one ingredient, broccoli, cauliflower, it's like one thing, orange. Like these are, whole foods, right? So that's why I feel like people need to understand more, just to be more educated on you're paying for your health, whether it's, like I said, through buying more expensive groceries or you don't, and then you're dealing with co-pays, doctor visits, prescriptions, feeling like crap and all that. So you pay for it one way or the other.
That's true. It's the same pitch I make when people walk into the gym. They'll say, "Yeah, well, this is expensive." I say, "Well, is it really?" Because individual training is usually $1 a minute anywhere, right? And you can train here as much as you want for $158 a month. And I said, "Well, yeah, there's a time component." I said, "Yeah, it's true. 3 hours a week is 1.6% of your life. And if you add another 3 hours for commute, now you're at 3.2% of your life. So there is that as well."
Yeah.
So you're going to pay financially to someone, or pay for medical bills or more prescriptions, or you're going to pay for a lower quality of life. And so that was the one piece I totally agree with you. Second, what I find is that you need to meet people where they're at. So yes, there's those microplastics in the rotisserie chicken. But if someone's coming to you and they're 150, 200 pounds overweight, that's probably one of the least of our issues, right? There's so much other low-hanging fruit. Once people keep evolving the different levels, they keep leveling up, they get healthier and healthier, they're stronger, right? They're more capacity, the GPP, and then you're working on their nutrition. Well, maybe they are now eating, whole foods. Maybe they are juicing. Maybe they have their own side of beef it's not processed. They got it from a local farmer. There's always those next levels. So you got to start with, hey, where are you at now? Where can we move the needle? And what's a sustainable new habit that we can add? If someone comes to you and says, hey, I have normal diet or something, there's plenty of processed food, plenty of meats, plenty of vegetables. I'll have drinks every once in a while. What is a sustainable first step of a juice product that I can make that would help move the needle, that would help me be a little bit healthier? Any first steps for people?
Yeah, so great question. Beginner juicers, I recommend like a simple, what I call the ABC juice. So apple, beet, carrot. This is a great beginner-friendly juice. It tastes really good. Low sugar levels. You don't have to worry about blood sugar or anything like that. Or you could do a simple, what I call like a mono juice, which would be like one fruit. So apple juice or celery juice, depending on what their needs are. So, a lot of people do find the green juices are a lot harder to drink because they are bitter and your palate definitely has to change a little bit. So, for example, when my oldest daughter was younger, she really struggled to get her greens in. So I would juice like kale and spinach and then throw in like some pineapple and green apple to kind of cut the bitterness. And then I'd be like, oh, it's the green Jolly Rancher or something. And then she would want to drink it and then she would drink it. And then I'm like, okay, good. Like I know she just got a big dose of vitamin A, E, K and, feeling really good and a lot of magnesium there as well. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, like you said, meeting people where they're at and then showing them, it doesn't have to be this hard, crazy process, like, so for example, I do batch juicing. Now, like I said earlier, fresh is best. But if you're a busy mom like myself, I have my family, my kids, the sports and all that. So I do what's called batch juicing. So this is where you make a large quantity of juice at one time, and then you're able to fill the jars to the top. And that's another thing too. If you're batch juicing, you want to make sure to fill the jars in glass because you don't want plastic because the juice can break down the plastic and that'll leach into the juice. So you fill it to the top to avoid oxidation, and then you can store those in the refrigerator up to 3 days. So then everybody has their juice, and then we're good, So um, little things like that, like knowing little tips, because in all reality, it's like, sure, I bet a lot of people would like to make a fresh juice every day, but it's the timing. Maybe it's the morning, they're late for work, their kids are running late, or whatever it is. So when you're prepared like that, it's a lot easier to stay on track and then just have your stuff ready. Same thing, if you don't want to do bigger juices, then just do juice shots. Those are quick, take your shot, boom, you're out the door.
I'm not asking this question because of Bloody Marys, but I do like tomato juice, right? Talk to me about the difference between V8 tomato juice and then your version of a V8 tomato juice.
So usually like V8, for example, definitely has a lot of preservatives in the juice. I've had it too. I remember drinking the Bloody Mary mixes, whereas mine would just be just tomatoes. So there's no additives, there's no syrups or anything like that. And there's a big difference in the taste. So, when you do a cold pressed juice, the agar turns very slowly. So it's almost like it does the chewing for you. And now when we chew, the enzymes are very important for our digestion, but the juicer actually does that for you. So I always tell people like there's centrifugal juicers and there's cold press juicers. Centrifugal juicers, I do not recommend at all. They're really loud, which is annoying. But then on top of that, the worst part is that they produce a lot of heat because they spin the blade so fast. And then what happens is that causes the juice to heat up, and then that actually destroys a lot of the enzymes and good nutrients in the juice. That's why it's best to have a slow cold press juicer. Then that way all the nutrients and everything is intact, and then the juice is able to stay longer, fresher. So if you do like a centrifugal juicer and try to do, with the 3 days in the fridge, probably not going to last because it's already been heated up, and then like I said, it kills the enzymes. So it's not good.
So my brother for a number of years was big in sales at Vitamix. So I have one of his Vitamix blenders, and it does anything. Like, it can make ice cream, it can make soup. Take the almonds and make almond butter, peanut butter as well, right? You can take the garbanzo beans and add the other oils and ingredients and make your own hummus and salsa, right? So that's that's the rotating blades. That's what you're talking about, the centrifugal juicers, right? Not to use that, something that's more cold pressed.
Yes, definitely.
Dang, because that
110%.
that,
Yeah.
that blender's $700, so I don't know what a cold press. What are we talking there in terms of cost? I have no idea.
So I always recommend the Nama juicers. I have a Nama J2, and that one is $550. So it's one of the top juicers on the market. You really get the most value for your buck there. And I know sometimes people ask me like, "Oh, I can't afford that. It's too expensive." And like I started off with like a cheap one on Amazon too, but it was like you have to manually push every piece of produce in the thing. Whereas the Nama juicer, you can just pop the stuff in there and then it's hands free, so it does the juicing for you. So huge fan of the Nama. Definitely recommend it. Yeah.
Things change in the winter for you?
So yes, so I try to juice seasonally. So in the wintertime, I live in the Midwest. We're all Hoosiers here. So, not gonna lie, produce season definitely sucks in the winter, but we do have citrus season in the winter, which is great. So definitely a lot of oranges, a lot of lemons. And then on top of that, a lot of pears, pomegranates, those types of things are more fruitful in the winter. And then sometimes too, like, depending on where you get your fruit from, you can get like good pineapples and things like that too. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like right now we're in well, we're almost done wrapping up melon season, but like, June, like I have a lot of my clients doing melon juices, honeydew, cantaloupe, watermelon. If you've never had fresh watermelon juice, oh my God, you guys, I'll have to make you some next time I come down there because it is unbelievable. Like it is so good. It is so hydrating. It has like H3O. So the water content is so high on melon juices and it makes you feel so amazing and it feels so good. So I tell my clients, it's like you can go to a farmer's market or farm stand and get a huge seeded watermelon for like $5 to $7 and you can make, like I don't know, maybe 10, 32-ounce juices out of that, or you can split it up and divide it out however you want. But try to do like what's in season and then it's a lot more economical. So I definitely recommend what's in season should be juiced during that time. So right now we got berries going on. So blackberries, raspberries, pomegranates, these are really good low glycemic fruits to help. I always recommend berries for people that have thyroid issues. It's a great natural way to help the thyroid. And also women that have issues with their menstrual cycle, raspberries definitely a way to go. You could do raspberry juice, raspberry teas, and then you can also do raspberry enemas as well. So those are great ways to.
Raspberry enema, you said?
Hmm. Yep.
Okay, we're going to wait to evolve to that level, I'm probably guessing, right? Lucas, he coaches high school kids, and they're trying to, win at whatever sport they're in. We have CrossFitters at my gym, powerlifters, and then, we work with high school and then college kids. And Lucas and I have come across plenty of people still playing college or even beyond. And they'll say that once you're done training or lifting, you're banged up. Your body's going to want some sugar, right? Have that soon. And then later add protein so your muscles can repair. If I wanted to, instead of having like a Gatorade or a banana, or bananas are still good to have afterwards, and whole food like you would say, but is there a good juice for recovery after you've been training?
Absolutely. And it tastes so good. This is one of the top ones I recommend for post-workout, like soreness, is going to be watermelon with pineapple. Two simple ingredients. And the bromelain, the enzyme in pineapple, is amazing to help reduce soreness and muscles, the sore muscles within the body. And then combining the watermelon, like I said, 98% water content. So that combined with that enzyme really helps reduce inflammation and that muscle soreness. And the taste and flavor is absolutely phenomenal. And in addition to that, I'll also tell you guys another like a good pre-workout is beet juice. So like when I was at Unbreakable, I made my own shots of beet juice before I was going up on the platform for my lifts. And beet juice has nitric oxide, so this opens up the blood vessels to help really get you a good workout and a good pump. And it's a natural, like I said, natural pre-workout. So you don't have to do a dry scoop. You could just do one shot of beet juice, and then you're good to go. So yes,
Those
definitely.
red beets is what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing you drinking those things, these tiny little things, and someone asked me, "Where's she
Yeah.
drinking?" I'm like, "Oh, those are liquid steroids. That's how she gets so strong." And they're like, "Really?"
Yes.
I'm like, "No, that's not a thing, bro." You know.
It
A lot of
was,
the
don't lie. There was a little bit of Winstrol in there. No, I'm just kidding.
colleges I worked at, they almost always have a nutritionist giving out beetroot.
Yeah. That's
They're always handing out like juices of that. Like usually they come in like ready to drinks and stuff. So I've seen a lot of athletes consuming that a lot before their workouts too.
yeah.
So
It's great. And
I've seen that
also, in
before.
addition to that, you should also juice the leaves and stems that come on top of the beetroot because those actually have more minerals than the beet itself. So that's definitely something you should put in there. Obviously, you want to make sure it's organic, but yeah, make sure you clean the leaves and stems and juice those with the beet. It's huge.
Hmm. We have the Powerlifting Americas Championship coming up this fall at the gym. Are we going to see you back for a return visit?
So some of the athletes were asking me about that. Now, I did not qualify, but I was thinking to come down there and just hang out and cheer everybody on. So I don't know. What do you think, Jim? Should I come through, make an appearance?
I think that would be cool, and I think Cody's going to open up a second platform and increase the number of participants because there's such a demand, and it's the Americas, so it's kind of a big deal. And then we just rearranged the entire gym these last several days, moved the rig, so it's going to open it up even more, we think, and help aid with those kind of competitions and events that with CrossFit. And maybe you don't compete, but if you're down there handing out beet shots and watermelon shots,
Yeah.
next thing you know, they're like, "Hey, over there for your Winstrol drink and a little Anavar on the side, and you're going to be,
That was a good one. Yeah. But no, that is a good idea. I mean, that definitely, you have me thinking there because that, I don't know, maybe I will do that.
Gotcha." Usually, people, you seem like a competitive person, just you versus you. Anything you have on the horizon where you have like an event, whether it's a lift or a Spartan race or I don't know, swim across the English Channel. Anything on the horizon for you?
So I'm really trying to get to this 300-pound deadlift by the end of this year. So I'm really
Okay.
going for that. I actually been power building training this summer, and I'm on my deload this week. I'm gonna be going back to SBD probably within the next 2 weeks, and I don't know for sure. I might do the meet in Lafayette on December 14th, and if not, then I'll look at something early in the first quarter of next year. But yeah, I mean, I really, I was hoping, but me being a newbie, and like, I'll tell you, I did my first meet last October, and as me being a new person, like this is all me. Like I have the Juggernaut app, and that's what I've been using, Juggernaut AI for my programming, and I love it. It is legit. Like Chad has done a phenomenal job at really getting this app to where it should be. And me watching videos, trying to teach myself, and I know some stuff with lifting, but it's so different, like not having a coach, versus just being in the garage myself. And so what happened was at my meet in October, I would have won a medal, but my butt cheeks came off the bench when I was benching, and I did not know that. So I was so pissed after that. I was like, man, I got to get a coach because my kids were there. They were crying. They're like, you didn't win a medal. And that, honestly, that like ate me alive. That's why, like, still, I got this sitting right here on my desk. I'm like, every day I look at this, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to win another one. But no, so after that, I really went on the hunt to find like a specific powerlifting coach. So I called around tons of gyms around here, and all these gym dudes are like, well, we have trainers and stuff. I'm like, I don't want a trainer. I want someone that specifically coaches powerlifting athletes or specializes in SBD. Like, I need that. So finally, I found this guy, and it's not like it's really far from me, but it's like 45 minutes to an hour. So I, trained with him pretty much like the whole winter, like 6 months basically. So then that way, when I competed at my meet in April, I was like, I'm winning that effing medal, man. And I did, and I felt really good and it was great. But I still feel like I could definitely use coaching for sure. And like, I wish I had that. That's what I was telling Lucas earlier. It's like one thing I miss about being at a box is like having a coach really, critique. And I mean, it's one thing to have it like on video, and I do that too. Like, I'll go back and watch my videos. I'm like, oh yeah, my hips were here, my butt came up too fast, or you know what I mean? Like, you can kind of look whatever, but it is different with the coach. So that part I miss. But yeah, it's like I'm gonna get this 300-pound deadlift, and then hopefully, like I said, I'm not sure. It depends on my kids' sports and all that. But if I can do the December comp, I'm gonna do it. So yeah.
When you're talking about your bench, you said it's one of your weaker lifts and your upper body isn't where you want it and it's easier to grow your lower body lifts. All right, that's probably true with most people. Where is the weakness? Do you know? Is the bar wobbly? Does it get
No,
down to your
it's out of
chest
the
and it's
hole.
stapled?
It's
What's
coming
that?
out of the hole.
So do you know what the limiting factor is then?
It's definitely like coming out of the hole for the bench. Like, once it's down here, like getting out, like my
Mm-hmm.
left shoulder is kind of like stable, or not stable, I should say, and a little bit wobbly. So
Gotcha.
that's the part I know, so it's like squeezing your backs together and getting the lats and tucking on the bench and all that. And now I'm better. Like, I'm very, very conscious about my butt and like, my feet placement and all that. Like, I was not doing all that before. I had no clue, but my coach had given me a lot of tips, even with like accessory exercises and stuff, just little small tweaks that I noticed a big difference. So I
Gotcha.
really take that stuff to heart. I'm like, I'll do it. Tell me what to do and I'll put in the work. So
Once let's assume that your technique is dialed in and you're not missing because of that. If the bar's coming down and the bar's wobbly because your shoulder or whatever, and you're trying to pinch your shoulder blades together, like doing a push-up, or a scapular push-up where you're bringing your shoulder blades together. That's the right technique and all. But if your lats and back aren't strong enough to manage the weight, then it's going to be wobbly, right? So if you're a 200 bencher for 5, you should be at least a 150 barbell rower for 5, roughly, right? So your back is strong enough. A lot of people that are starting out, they'll have like a 200 bench, 250 bench, and they're like, well, I can't go up. I'm like, well, what do you row? And they're like, you mean like on an erg machine? I'm like, no, I want you barbell or single arm row. I'm like, well, not very much. Well, the lats stabilize everything. Once the bar gets to your chest, if you can't get it off your chest, that's either that's part pec muscles and also your back. That initial oomph off the chest from that pause is a lot of pec and a lot of upper back pushing that weight. And you want to drive that up quickly because it's going to start to stall once it gets up to the second half of the lift. The second half is those triceps as you're trying to literally push the bar apart, like stretch the bar apart as you're blocking out your triceps. So once you get past the second half of it, then it's going to turn into all triceps. So if you can get it off your chest, but it stalls there, then it's triceps are the limiting factor. But for you right now, it's going to be your pecs and your upper back. So add more of that. So if you're doing like dumbbell benching where the dumbbells are below your chest line, it stretches further, unlike the bar that stops there, or like a Duffalo bar, which is a curved bar, right? Again, for that additional stretch. And then you don't even need to press the bar all the way out. Work on the bottom half. So come down below your chest and then press up halfway and then back down like a bodybuilding pump. You want to keep building that chest muscle so that you can get it off that paused chest, drive, and then get it into your triceps. Once that's the limiting factor, then you change up your tricep exercises to address that weakness.
Like little tweaks too with my triceps. So instead of doing like kickbacks, like just, straight back, it's like doing the kickback, but then twisting as I'm going up. And then, like for the first 6 months of the year, I was like working on my lats too, like pull-ups, doing a lot more pull-ups and stuff. So yeah, and then I have been trying to work on my chest too. So you nailed it because I know I'm doing all those accessory things, and it's helped. I mean, I could tell for sure. Like my chest is definitely a couple weeks ago super sore, like torn up. I'm like, dang, it feels good, you know. But yes, definitely with the bench, I'm just like, I can't wait to have those big plates on there. I'm like, one day, man, I'm gonna get there, you know. So I will. I promise.
It's cool having those different colors up there. You know, you start seeing, you know, a red or two reds, or you start pulling three reds. You're like, oh, dang, man, look at that.
Yeah.
You know, that's heavy weight. That's 25 kilos. You're just around 55 pounds.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you've been on a number of shows recently. You're kind of like doing this Evie tour where everyone's going to get a little bit from you. But before we wrap up with our rapid fire questions, I told this to Lucas, but I kind of just teased it before you came on. I know back in the day there was a little controversy that ended up on the Jimmy Kimmel show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Explain to him how that all went down.
Okay. So yeah. So first, I'll start off by saying that, you know, like I said earlier, I respect everybody's path and decision as to what they choose to do with their life. I really do, you know. But
Big
I feel
disclaimer.
like when you're on the other when you're on the other side of the coin, sometimes you don't get that you know, people that are as loving, open and accepting and things like that. So what happened was, this is really crazy, you guys. So like I said, I, you know, did CrossFit for many years, and I this woman had reached out to me. This was when I worked at the media agency, and I don't know how she got through the firewalls of our email, but she was like, "Hey, Evie, um, my name is X from the Washington Post, and we're doing an article about the misinformation being spread around about the COVID-19 vaccine, and we want to talk to you about a reel that you had posted on Instagram." So in the caption, I never said anything about the vaccine ever. I just had a crop top shirt on that said vaccines are poison. And then
Big
she
statement.
was like, she goes, "We want to talk to you about this." And to be honest with you, I really felt like, first I was kind of scared because I was thinking like, gosh, you know, this, you're coming to my livelihood here, like, you know. And then I was thinking, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, and like, you know, all of my old company was all about like the First Amendment and everything. So I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really go with like my company culture, whatever. But I didn't respond because I felt like they were going to skew it to fit their agenda or whatever they wanted to say. So I just left it alone. So then she emails me again 2 weeks later and copies like 50 reporters. And she's like, do you have a comment? We're going to publish this article about you. Evie Kevish, 42 years old, CrossFitter, certified juice therapist, and all this stuff. And I just left it alone. So I was like, okay, you know, whatever. Well, I didn't think it was going to be like it was. And then the article was published. So I was like, whoa, you know, like that kind of like threw me for a loop. So I was like, okay, you know, and I just kind of like left it alone. Well, then a few days later, I wake up and my website had almost crashed because I was inundated with thousands of emails. And like, when you go on my website to get on my email list, you have to fill out the form, you know, like your first, last name, email, and then you get like a download. Then you get in my email, and then you can send me an email. Well, I had all of these people emailing me. I saw you on the Jimmy Kimmel show. F you. Who do you think you are? You're all woo woo. I hope you and your family get COVID and die. We're going to kill you. I mean, just the most crazy things ever. So I call my brother and I'm like, dude, what is this? I'm like, find this video of me on the Jimmy Kimmel show. So he found it and he sent it to me, and I could not believe it. And at this time, I literally had like maybe 3 or 4,000 followers on Instagram. I really did not have a huge following at all. And he said I had abs, which I don't. I'm like, all right, well, I'll take that because I got a little pooch, but whatever. But he was making fun of me and talking shit about me basically, and said that I was spreading misinformation because I was talking about juicing. And in the caption, I said, during the whole pandemic, did you ever hear anything about, health stuff, exercising, nutrition, diet, anything. No, all we kept hearing, gloves, masks, scare tactics, all this stuff. So that was it. I never said anything about the vaccine. So, yeah,
But
after
the
that,
shirts.
it blew up. It blew up. And the owner and founder of the Juice Guru Institute he actually called me and he was like, "Hey, Evie, did you know that you were on Yahoo News?" And I was like, "No, I did not." And then after that, it just spread like wildfire. It was on podcasts and like all these publications. And then I actually made it into the Huffington Post in Italy with Nicki Minaj because she was another one that like spoke out or whatever. And then they were calling us crazy. And I was thinking, well, man, I must be doing something right if I'm making national headlines. I mean, shoot, how do you find me, Evie Kevish, Northwest Indiana, with a small following and then put me on like that? So it was crazy. And honestly, I started getting a little bit scared and worried because I was concerned for my family's safety. Because, it's like you just never know. People are so crazy nowadays or whatever. But after that, the owner of the Juice Guru Institute, he was like, you should take this. And he's like, his wife is an attorney. And she was like, you can put the logo on your website because you have been on the Jimmy Kimmel show and then reach out to them and ask them to bring you on the show. And I did, but they never responded. But it was crazy. So yeah, I mean, that was definitely a wild ride and, something I'm just like, I still to this day, I'm like, I don't even know how that happened, but obviously I must be ruffling the right feathers because, now more people know about juicing and that, kind of like, hey, let's educate ourselves before we just go and get another dose and, more poison in our body. So yeah, it was crazy.
That's literally the example of people are throwing lemons and you make lemonade, right?
Yeah.
They throw tomatoes and you're making tomato juice. Crazy story, but glad you lived to, tell the tale. And what a trying time in the world's history. And so much misinformation, so much good information, so much pain and pointing and jabbing of people and name calling this and that. It was just a really ugly time in our history. And at the end of the day, people that advocate to eat healthy and work out and be healthy, like those should be our bedrocks and our staples. So I'm glad we're still on this planet and we're still moving forward, still making an impact.
Yeah.
When you're in that tricked out garage of yours, right? What do you listen to when you're, working that heavy deadlift?
So I'm a huge fan of techno. That's like, still to this day, like I was a hardcore raver in my early 20s. So that's still in my blood, man. I mean, I just growing up, I always loved like electronic house, techno, trance, all that kind of stuff. But then, yeah, definitely my style has changed. Like I still listen to that, but over the past few years, I've really been getting into like it's called funk and wave music. So it's a lot of like Suicide Boys and like heavy kind of like rap and trap mixed together beats. The lyrics are bad. It's not really good. I try not to listen to it in front of my kids because it's pretty vulgar. But you got to have good beats when you're working out. And I will tell you, one of my friends told me she was like, "Have you ever done a workout in silence?" And I was like, no. And I tried it like only once and it was completely different. I did a barefoot workout too. I incorporate those in the summer, like, doing barefoot workouts. But yeah, I mean, for me, your girl's got to have the beats, man, because I like to be popping it too when I'm lifting, little booty shaking, dancing it up. Yeah, man, I got to have it.
No, Zach Evanesh is almost always lifting barefoot all the time. There are a number of times I've trained in silence. You just kind of get in your head and get kind of mental. I like that. Bucket list adventure. You haven't done it yet, so something you'd like to do or go.
Well, like I had said, I used to be an old raver. So one of the things I've always wanted to go is to Ibiza. That is like, the rave capital of the world. Hottest people, best music, best weather, good food. Definitely on my list. I would say, definitely one of the top places. And then also hiking. I'm a huge fan of like outdoor stuff. So like I've always wanted to go to Iceland. I became obsessed kind of when I was a CrossFitter and all the daughters, Annie, Katrin, Sarah, all of them. And then when I would see Iceland, I'm like, man, it just looks so beautiful out there. So definitely on the bucket list.
That's awesome. So I imagine your favorite sport is CrossFit, and athlete is one of the daughters then.
Yes. So that was what really, like, I remember when I first joined CrossFit and I just saw all these hot chicks, booty shorts and everything. I'm like, damn, I want to look like that. Then my husband joined. I'm like, I know why you're joining, man. What's up? And then they had regionals in Chicago in 2013 or 14. And I saw Stacy Tovar. I always remember her with her white booty shorts. But then I saw Katrin and I was just obsessed with her. I think she is such an amazing athlete. She has such a good spirit and heart. Like, I mean, I don't know her personally, but I'm just saying it's like, that's like what it comes off. Like, she just seems like such a good person, and like her whole story and all that. So inspired by her. And then her body, I mean, is just amazing. And Annie Thor's daughter too. Like her physique is amazing. So like I said, I'm taller and stuff. So it's like, seeing taller girls that are more jacked and stuff, it was inspiring. So I like that. I like the way CrossFit girls look, because I feel like bodybuilders are too skinny, in my opinion. That's just me. But I like CrossFitters. I like, a girl with nice muscle, good definition stuff, not too crazy. So that's what got me in there. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to join and learn how to lift and have a banging body.
It's interesting from a percentage basis on the population. How many CrossFit games or high-level athletes come out of a small country like Iceland, as well as how many world's strongest men, and throwers come out of Iceland. And it's not that big of a country, right? Yeah. And on a percentage basis, it's almost saturated with so many amazing athletes. They're just bred differently. If you're watching a movie though about sports, what's a favorite sports movie of yours?
Oh, I would say like going old school, this is like growing up was like the Sandlot, man, the baseball Squints, I mean, that Wendy Peppercorn, it's just like an old school good one, man. That's one of the ones I remember. And I really liked. I don't know, it inspired me. I, played all kinds of sports and stuff in high school too. And then I was just burnt out. Like, I didn't want to do anything in college. I swam, captain of the swim team, softball, basketball, volleyball, band. I mean, I did it all. But I think it's so good, to have that background and to really, be inspired or motivated. So I think like one movie like that when you're little can really help set the tone, to help inspire you for your future. Yeah.
Well, how many kids were inspired after that pool scene when Squints turns and winks at his boys, right?
They were all pulling that move too.
Every kid in America was like, "That's the kid I've always wanted to be." Right? Holy cow, you had the balls to do it, right?
Yep.
He's just mad. He's like, she's just sitting up there oiling every day out in the sun. I've had enough.
Yeah.
So he goes and jumps in the deep end and almost kills himself.
Oh my
How about a book? You have a favorite book or one that you like to recommend?
Yes. So one of my favorite books is called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I am very much into higher consciousness and really being in tune with, a higher state of consciousness. So that book really opened up the doors and taught me a lot. Joe Dispenza he has a lot of things like with meditations as well. And he really teaches people, and it's amazing, like at his conferences and summits, like people that are actually like have, terminal illnesses and stuff, like he's seen people get healed. So he teaches people how to tap into your subconscious mind to really break out of, like you had mentioned earlier, limiting beliefs. Or, like let's say if you had a doctor that told you, I'm sorry, but you have this, stage 4 cancer and we're looking at like 3 months. And like some people hear that and then they accept that and they're like, that's it, man. This is it for me. Whereas someone like maybe that would be into Joe Dispenza is like, okay, that's not good news or whatever, but you know what? I'm going to overcome this in the power of meditation. And they've done like brain scans and everything at their conferences and shows like how people can alter their body's chemistry and their DNA and cells on a molecular level to help heal their body. So I'm just so fascinated with that because I'm just so into like physiology and anatomy and holistic healing. And that book really like opened the doors and changed me a lot. I was just like, wow, this just really shows you the power of the human mind, you know?
Well, then we need to have you back down to Unbreakable on August 24th. Jesse Coomer and I, but mostly Jesse, he's doing 80% of the presenting. And it's on breath work, meditation, cold therapy. I've been through his course before, but now he'll be presenting at our gym. So you should definitely check that out. He's published 2 or 3 books. His certification comes through Wim Hof, if you follow him at all, right? The Iceman. So if you're into that, it's a legit course, and you'll learn a lot about yourself. And I had great experience with Jesse before. So how about whether it's, people always assume that this next question is coming out of comic books. It doesn't necessarily have to be the case, but you have like a favorite hero or villain. It doesn't have to be that. It could be in a story. It could be, I had one person say people in his family. So if you're a favorite superhero, a favorite supervillain, you kind of watch or cheer for or like.
I know that's a good question. I would say, I don't really have a favorite superhero or villain, but I would say, definitely inspired by certain people and things. So, for example, like being an athlete, I really like, I'm inspired by women, especially that are able to, maintain their physique and strength as they age. So, it's changed because, like, over the years, I used to be inspired by other things, whatever. But now, when I see women, like I've been following a lot of these powerlifting women that are like in their 50s, 60s, one of them's in their 70s. And I look at people like that and I am just like, wow, like I want to be like that at that age, And I'm talking like this one woman I call, she's 57 and like she'll be doing flexing and like her whole bicep and like arms are so cut up. And I'm like, that is just so amazing. So I don't have anyone in particular. I just say like, it's like certain groups of people that inspire me and like kind of, get me motivated and excited.
Favorite lift?
Deadlift all day. That's my favorite.
If you had 10 million in cash, what would you do?
I would definitely take care of my family. I would, my parents are retired, but they still work for fun. I don't know. My dad drives a school bus because he's bored and just wants to get out of the house. So I would, take care of them, and I would probably move to a blue zone. So I think there's only 4 of them in the world, but the blue zones are where people usually live to over 100 years old because of their diet and how they live. So like Costa Rica, Japan, Okinawa is one. I think there's one in Italy, and I don't know where the other one is right now. But yeah, definitely move to a place like that and help people in need. Get people like healthy and understand like you don't have to live your life feeling like crap and just being like blah. Wake up happy and full of life and energy and be excited. And help people get out of that juice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You got a quote or a flavor of the month or one that's speaking to you right now?
Yes. My favorite quote is from Maya Angelou, and she always said that people might forget your name and what you said, but they will never forget the way you made them feel. And that is so true. You think about that, and it's like, as I was growing up and stuff, not like in a conceited way or anything, but I was like always more popular and things like that. But I remember even in high school, like I always stood up for the kids that got picked on. Like I have a soft spot in my heart for that. I volunteered for like 10 years with the food pantry and the Down Syndrome Association. And, just being kind and like giving someone good words. Like your words can make or break somebody. And that's so important because it's like the way you make them feel. Like you don't know. Someone could be acting normal and look happy, but maybe they're suicidal inside and something you says triggers them or hurts them. Or you could say something positive and it totally changes their outlook and perspective. So it's like, don't forget that, what you say has such an impact and the way you make people feel.
Awesome. Really enjoyed our time today. Evie, where can people find you?
Great question. Yes, you guys can check out my website, eviekevish.com. I'm also on all social platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, as Evie Kevish, one word. And then, yeah, I think those are all my platforms. Yes, and my website. So that's where you can find me, Evie Kevish.
Awesome. Those that want to continue to email the show with questions, you can email us at info@athlete-builder.com. Also be on the lookout for the Athlete Builder book. My book launches, the pre-sale will launch soon, but it goes live September 30th. And then there's one other announcement that came out today, August 19th. We partnered with Special Olympics in Indiana, which is dovetailing off Special Olympics in Tennessee. In Tennessee, they started this initiative, Train for Life, just working with special needs people simply to be well-rounded and healthy. So CrossFit's a good approach to that. And we're one of the 6 gyms in Indiana that's partnering with Special Olympics. We're going to bring on folks. The program's going to be, athletes will come in on Mondays at 4:30 p.m. We'll train them, and then they'll have 2 at-home workouts. So we're looking for athletes, which you can go to SO Indiana, Special Olympics, soindiana.org, and register as an athlete. We're also looking for volunteers or champions for our athletes. There'll be Zoom calls monthly for nutrition and mindset. So be on the lookout, and if you know anyone around the Indianapolis area, it's all free for special needs kids that register with the Special Olympics. That news just came out today. We're pretty excited about it. So fun little announcement, something I'm quite proud of. So Evie, great time. Good catching up with you again. I learned plenty. I took notes. Looking forward to hopefully seeing you and catching up at some of the meets down the road, but really enjoyed the time. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.